so many new fine girls right now. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, that means that you are already a fine girl. And welcome back, fine girls. So if you are a 90s kid like me, you remember watching Showtime at the Apollo with your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, and any other family members that you may have. And if you are a young adult in New York City, you are fortunate enough to see Showtime at the Apollo in person at least once. Harlem's legendary theater has been around since March 1914, and it originally featured burlesque dancers and then later featured famous African American entertainers. This change was initiated due to burlesque dancing being banned by the New York City mayor at the time. So this timing aligned perfectly, considering that Harlem was becoming one of the largest urban black communities in the nation at that time and during the Harlem Renaissance. So the Harlem Renaissance was just a period of cultural, artistic, social eruption amongst African Americans. And initially when Apollo was built, the audience and the entertainers were predominantly white at that time. And then in 1932, Sidney Cohen and Morris Sussman purchased the building in 1932. On January 26, 1934, they reopened Apollo as a black-oriented theater. Most black people, they did not have a place where they could perform. So this allowed them with that avenue to be featured and to showcase their talents. The proceeds collected during the performances were donated to the Harlem's Children Fresh Air Fund. Apollo eventually merged with the Harlem Opera House and became one of the only theaters in New York City to hire black entertainers, whether they were musicians, singers, tap dancers, comedians, whatever type of entertainer you were. If you were black, then Apollo would welcome you with open arms. Soon after, Apollo adopted Amateur Night, and this is where unknown performers will be showcased. This is where many of the greats were debuted. So for example, Ella Fitzgerald, she came there when she was 15 years old. Billie Holiday performed there, Dionne Warwick, Michael Jackson at the age of 9. You had James Brown, Gladys Knight, Luther Vandross, Mariah Carey, and I literally could go on all day long. The Apollo Theater has been around for so long that it's reached landmark status and it's drawn millions from near and far. After the Civil Rights Act and desegregation in the 1960s, the African American performers, they were welcomed into other venues. And so the Apollo's competition increased. And unfortunately, this is very common for so many predominantly black spaces or black businesses. After desegregation, a lot of businesses failed afterwards because a lot of the people in the African American community, they were going to other communities to purchase different things. So by the mid 1970s, the theater had become bankrupt. And they had to think about, how are we going to keep Apollo afloat? Because this was definitely a focal point for the black community in Harlem. So they hired someone specifically to look at the financials, and they determined that, you know what, we can't run Apollo as a commercial property. Let's run this as a nonprofit. So that's what they began to do, especially considering the amounts of seats. So if they were to charge by the seat, they couldn't even cover the cost that they needed for the building. So you know, whenever you have something that's a nonprofit, the way you get taxed is differently. Some cases you don't get taxed at all. So this is what triggered the variety show. So the variety show in syndication, Showtime at the Apollo as we know it, began airing in 1987. Throughout its history, it's always been integral to the Uptown community and 125th Street. So more importantly and emotionally, it has always been a place for opportunity. For those who have not seen Apollo before, let me give you a brief rundown on how the show worked. The show was comprised of two components. There's the amateur night and then the professionals. So the show would end with the professionals performing, but it would open with the amateur contestants. The amateurs would come on stage once called, rub the log for good luck, and introduce themselves before performing. Now, New Yorkers, y'all can put it in the comment section below how y'all feel about this, but y'all are brutal, okay? So for example, let's say you went to Apollo, the crowd didn't like your outfit, and soon as they see you on stage, they are just gonna start booing you off the gate. Like, who cares how you are going to perform, but they're letting you know your outfit is trash on site. So the brave contestants, they would perform, followed by either applause, standing ovation, or they'll be kicked off the stage by the Sandman if the crowds continue to boo them. So once all the amateurs performed, they would all be brought onto the stage by Kiki Shepard. The crowd's applause would determine who the winner was, and the winner would be brought back for the next week. I remember me and my cousins, we used to pretend to be Kiki Shepard. And you know what, while we're talking about Kiki Shepard for a little bit, I felt like she was like great representation for Black girls. Like she always had like nice, elegant outfits, always behaving like in a classy manner, beautiful, dark skin, lovely, like everything. So now let's talk about successful performers that were booed at the Apollo. So we are going to start off with the singer and songwriter whose wife recently left him, not only because he cheated, but because he fathered a secret child. Now, if you guessed Neo,
you was right.
Yes, Neo, when he was about 20 to 23 years old, he went by the name Go-Go, and he performed with his boy band called Envy. Now, Neo and his bandmates, they were on some Pretty Ricky type stuff, so they're trying to like grind on the stage, and it did not impress the crowd, probably particularly the males. So they didn't get kicked off the stage by the Sandman, however, so they were able to perform throughout the whole thing, even though the boos were pretty consistent. So maybe the grinding on the floor did help them after all. So the next person we have is Lauryn Hill. Now, I'm sure you've seen Lauryn Hill's mental breakdown on stage before, and the fact that she's been booed. We've seen Lauryn Hill go through a lot, actually. So Lauryn, she was at the Apollo singing a rendition of Who's Loving You, and she started off pretty shaky. So in came the boos, boo, boo, and she began singing louder just to drown out the boos. And she was able to finish her song, and the crowd, they actually ended up liking her. But she didn't win the competition. However, she did win a Grammy later on. You know, she was able to join the Fugees, and, you know, Lauryn, she kind of got the last laugh. Lyfe Jennings also was on the Apollo. He was 29 at the time. He came from Ohio, and he had recently finished a 10-year bid, you guys. He was looking for new opportunities to get a big break. And what place has been shown to make stars and establish legends? Apollo. So Lyfe, he didn't even open up his mouth when he got on the stage, and the crowd just started booing him, booing him, booing him. And according to the crowd, they felt like Lyfe Jennings, he looked like a bum with an acoustic guitar, and the only thing that he needed was the hat to collect spare change. But Lyfe, he was determined. He didn't let the instant boos deter him from performing. He performed, and the crowd, they ended up giving him a standing ovation. And then he won 5 weeks in a row, and then he later ended up signing a record deal. Luther Vandross. So at 18 years old, Luther Vandross, he was a part of a group called Jade at the time, and he went to Apollo hoping for success and hoping to be discovered like many. Luther, he went to the Apollo 5 times, and he didn't win one amateur night. This can be a great lesson for anyone out there who has ever been hearing what it seems to be like endless no's, okay? Because when you're talented, when you work hard, you learn from your mistakes, and you're determined, God will align you with the perfect opportunity no matter who else is telling you no. Next, we have Dave Chappelle. Well, I'm gonna let him tell his story, okay? He says, I remember that boo. I had never been booed off stage before. I just remember looking out and seeing everybody booing. Everybody! Even old people. Who boos a child pursuing his dreams? This was the meanest crowd in the world. And then the siren went off, and the dude came out dancing, tap dancing at me. Sandman. I wanted to choke him. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because before that time, I had never bombed. And after that, I was fearless. So with Luther Vandross and even with Dave Chappelle, you can see how even though moments of adversity and moments where it may seem like you're losing, you're really winning experience, and you can use that to leverage whatever else you need for your future opportunity. James Brown. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, who booed the king? How could you boo a king? Well, I'm about to tell y'all, okay? First time at amateur night, he was booed, but it wasn't because of his performance. Of course, you know, he's full of energy, very engaged. It was because of the clothes that he wore, the clothes he had on. James Brown, he came from Georgia. He walked on the stage, and I guess he had some country chaps on, and the crowd just went in on him. And the next week, James Brown, he borrowed a pair of pants and a shirt from one of the stagehands who's a New Yorker, and he came back on with his New York shirt and his New York pants on, and he won the show, okay? If that doesn't go to show you that New Yorkers, they are here for the fashion, okay? They here for the looks. And if you're gonna go to Apollo, your talent has to be on point and your fit has to be on point. Lastly, we have Jamie Foxx. So he says when he first went to New York as a young comedian, Sinbad was the host at the time, so Sinbad brought him out, and he feels like Sinbad kind of set him up because he announced Jamie Foxx as, hey y'all, we got a West Coast comedian, and then bam, instantly everybody started even booing before he even got on the stage. And y'all know during this time it was that whole West Coast East Coast beef. I just want you guys to use this video as an opportunity to, of course, learn more about the Apollo, but to see how even though you can be told no in a situation, just continue to give it your all. Don't let that deter you from whatever goal you're trying to accomplish, and just keep going, keep honing in on your craft so you can continue to do better and learn from past experiences. And if you can think of anyone that has been booed on the Apollo that is now successful, let me know, because I know there are current reruns of old Apollo shows like from the 80s and the 90s, and the other day I saw one on TV, so that's what inspired me to do this video. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And once again, thank you to all the new Fine Girls. Thank you so much. We have more videos in store, and if there's anything that you want a video on, let me know, okay?